Hi there, I'm Sean Bindley, and this is Between the Lines. My guest on the program this evening is a Brisbane-based, comedian, guest speaker, and actor, I believe, as well. Mark McConville, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
It's nice to see you, mate.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff that you do to make a living in the creative and entertainment arts.
Yeah, for sure.
But first of all, how did you get into this comedy gig? What inspired you to take up a microphone and make people laugh?
Well, I fell into it by accident, studying because I started out wanting to be an actor.
Yeah.
Studying acting for 3 years at the Actors Conservatory in Brisbane, and 6 months into the course, they put on a cabaret show for the students to perform in. Mm-hmm. It was a free thing for family and friends to come along to give us some performing experience. And I've looked at the running order and thought, well, there's a lot of drama and there was a bit of singing and a bit of dancing. So there's not really, there's not really much comedy there. And someone said, oh, you want to get up and tell a few jokes? And I've gone, yeah, all right. Thinking, not much of it.
So you've been doing this, telling jokes to your friends and family previously?
Well, I was a sales rep on building sites.
Okay, which goes down pretty handy if you've got a line.
So I was telling gags to builders and that sort of stuff, which helped get business, which was always good fun. And on April 26, 1998, I'll never forget it, first time I ever walked on stage and grabbed a microphone by myself, and I 10 minutes, told a few jokes, told a few old jokes and a story about my childhood, and the audience, there's about 90 people there, and they laughed at the right bits and they liked it, and I didn't really think much of it. And then a few days later I go into the acting school and there's photos of me up in the foyer with the other actors and stuff, and I've got the microphone there, and I look like a comedian. And Marcus Hogan, the Dean of the Conservatory, dragged me into his office and he said, you never told me anything in your audition to join the school, because you had to audition to get into the class. He said, you never mentioned anything about, wanting to do stand-up or being a comedian. How long have you been doing this for? And I've gone 3 days. And he said, well, that's your thing, that's what I think you should pursue. Mm-hmm. And I continued studying the acting, started to do open mic gigs, and you do open mic gigs for a couple of years for free, doing 5-minute spots here, there and everywhere around Brisbane. Brisbane's got a fantastic scene for nurturing up-and-coming comics.
The Sit Down Comedy Club, for example, is running open mic nights over town, as well as the professional gigs as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Easy to get an opportunity there to start out?
There's a lot of open mic gigs on offer for the up-and-coming comics, they can do 3 gigs a week. Back then there was only really 1 or 2 on offer, and you had to ring up every Wednesday, can I have a spot this weekend, can I have a spot this weekend? And it's like, no, we're full. Or if they started to like you, they'd give you a spot. And I look back at that now, what I did at that time, and I go, I had no idea what I was doing, absolutely no idea. I'd come out onto stage with a bright orange shirt and bright orange shoes, and I'd shimmy across the stage thinking that if I came out and danced and gave them a bit of razzmatazz, and I'll never forget Greg Sullivan, who's become a good friend of mine, Sully from Triple M, dragged me aside one night and he said, your clothes are much bigger than your act. Work on your act. Yeah. And
don't let your shirt upstage you.
So I was lucky that guys like Greg and Mike Van Acker and Fred Lang and interstate guys that would come to Brisbane, gave me advice, and I listened and learnt and did what they told me. And it's a trade. It's like doing an apprenticeship, and it's a long trade, and you've got to learn the skills and the right way to go about it.
So generally, comedians are pretty supportive of each other?
Well, they are to a certain extent, because at the end of the day, everyone's competing for gigs.
Everybody's trying to make a living.
That's right. And we're all now in a position where you want gigs, you want exposure, you want to try and do as many shows as you can. And especially when you get to the point where that's your job, you know, like it's a big leap of faith to take to, like in 2001 when I graduated from my acting course, I was still working full-time as a sales rep, studying acting and doing stand-up gigs whenever I could. And I'd been doing the open mic scene for 3 years. I'd been starting to get a few gigs here and there, supports, which was a 20-minute middle spot, which paid, you know, $100 odd bucks, and they were coming in here and there, and I was, you know, having the opportunity to go to Sydney to do shows and go to Melbourne, and I had to make the decision. I thought, you know, if you want to do this, you have to give it 100% of your energy. So at the age of 31, to walk into, you know, my boss and say, I'm quitting to be a comedian. You know, they look at you and go, really?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
They sort of laugh behind their hands and wish you good luck and wait for you to turn up asking for your job back in a fortnight's time, sort of.
Yeah, well, I was really fortunate at the time because the guy that I was working for, because I've got manual labour experience as well on the tools and working in factories and that sort of stuff, I said to him, look, you know, I can't commit to a full-time job as a sales rep anymore, but at the same time I needed money and the comedy wasn't paying enough to pay all my bills, so I knew that I had to get a part-time job or something casual, whereas I could work a couple of days a week to help me get by. And I said, you know, I can still work here in the factory for a few days a week. If you're willing to do that, that's great. But if you're not, I'll have to look elsewhere. And luckily enough, he said, sure, you know, we'll keep you on doing that. So I did that for like another 2 years.
Is there a point when you actually realised that you were good enough to make a career out of this and you were following the right track?
One point in particular, I think, was having the recognition of like interstate headlining comedians that would, you know, mention my name to other agents in Sydney and Melbourne and have the opportunity to tour, you know, and, you know, rack up like 150 odd shows a year where you're working every week, 3 nights a week. And when you get to that point, yeah, you sort of think to yourself, well, you know, this is really what I need to be doing.
Well, like anything else, it's a full-time career, isn't it? You need to be doing it full-time, maximising your opportunities in order to be able to pay your mortgage, buy the groceries and lead what we all regard as a somewhat normal life, I guess.
Yeah. And I feel very lucky at the fact that, you know, I'm given this opportunity to make a living out of doing something that I truly love doing. You know, walking on stage and making people laugh is an amazing feeling, and I get such a buzz out of it, you know, and to be in a position to, you know, do that and have people go, you know, we like it, we're prepared to pay you money to go and do that. You know, even now, you know, 12 years in, I still pinch myself sometimes and go, is this really happening? You know? And it's great.
You're watching Between the Lines. My guest on the program today is Mark McConville, and we'll be back after the break.